Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I'm bringing to you guys is a video explaining and breaking down the March 2022 New World Developer video. They release these videos monthly, and essentially what they do is talk through the update that we're going to be seeing towards the end of the month, talk about the features that are going to be included with it, as well as maybe some things that weren't announced beforehand, which in this case there were several, and kind of give us a summary of their thoughts and feelings behind why some of the updates are coming, if they're preemptive of other stuff, so there could be in a series of events such as the main story quest ending with Isabella's lair in the Tempest's Heart and such. And, you know, kind of give us an eye into the insight of the development there and give us a little bit of a function as to what they're planning in the future. Usually we get some leaks and some new information that we haven't got, and like I mentioned there, this video was no different, so it's going to be a great one to cover lots and lots of information. Essentially what I'm going to do today is break it down for you guys, talk through some of the most important points, the points that they were reiterating the most, the points that stood out as brand new information or really important information, and kind of give you an indication of how that's going to impact the game, as well as giving some suggestions on how this might work or how I would like this to work when they implement it, because some of these things were kind of, we want this in the future. So without further ado, if you haven't already done so, please do drop a subscribe to the channel down below, and if you enjoyed this video today, do drop me a like as well, as both those things really help to support my channel here on YouTube. And other than that, let's jump into the video. So first things first, obviously we have the brand new expedition, and with that we have the brand new Blunderbuss weapon coming in with the March update, which is of course called the Heart of Madness. Now, the main thing that they reiterated several times here was about the Isabella arc, or the main story arc, essentially calling it part of the story. And that ends, or this particular part ends, when the Tempest's Heart is completed. Again, without too many spoilers, there's some cinematics in there, there's several notes to do with the lore along the way, as well as some characters around it, including the preamble quests, which are the repeatable quests you can do. They all feed into, essentially what you're doing is going into Isabella's mind. So that is that section of the story, but then also when we looked at the roadmap later in the video, which I will talk about as well, and obviously I made a full video on this yesterday, tons of exciting stuff. When Brimstone Sands is released with that, they are releasing a new culture, if you will, kind of look like Chardris's brother that was on the image for that, so we could see some interesting things there. And of course that could be the new arc of the story, it could be the Lost, it could be any of the other cultures that we've got in the game, but that is kind of where they're topping off the corruption for the time being. Now, the new expedition is an exploration of Isabella's mind and how she got corrupted, so it kind of ties off that story in a nice little way. And they did say that there could be some little Easter eggs or some cool little things that you can find throughout that expedition that kind of helps tell that story as well, which I think is pretty cool. Now, in terms of the future story arcs with different cultures, they did mention that that could be a thing, and they also mentioned that they're going to do massive updates to the solo main story quests, along with other big quality of life changes. This is just really good because, of course, it means progressing forward. Us that are max level currently will get these new storylines engaged with us when we hit Brimstone Sands, etc. Now, whether there's going to be a level cap increase or a gear score increase by this point, we don't actually know, but potentially. And, of course, we'll be able to play through the story of that, experience something new, a new tale that Eternum has to tell. And that's really, really cool, so they are working on that. They also really got a massive focus on the quality of life fixtures. Like I said there, they are planning to really streamline a lot of the stuff. They kept mentioning expedition orbs as one big thing that they really wanted to break down the barrier of, and I'll move on to that in a moment. One way they've started to do this with QoL is they are now going to allow us to enter the expeditions with only one member of the party at the entrance, which for me is huge. I'm sure for a lot of you guys, you're fed up waiting for that third person. Everyone's debating who's going to be the three that go. Now it's just whoever hosts it can go there, get themselves outside it, or just one player with the key, get themselves in, and that's job done. So that's a massive, massive QoL thing that I'm really excited for. Now, they are also massively streamlining the early and mid-game sections. You know, we've seen them add in those world encounters, the bosses, etc. The little random event bosses like Stinky the Hunter is making his reappearance, but this time actually fixed. And yeah, this is kind of an interesting thing because this is really good for the game's health overall. A lot of us endgame players, you know, it really isn't something that we're going to care all that much around unless they make some incentive to start a new character at some point. I don't know. But personally, it's not something I'm going to be that interested in. However, most players will drop off the game around level 30 to 40, particularly, you know, when they start getting into the harder levels. This is going to allow those players to get all the way up to 60, and the more players that get to 60 and start to experience the end game, the more that will probably enjoy it and kind of stick around for those end game activities, make their way into companies, join up with all of that type of thing, which I think will be really beneficial overall. Now, with that as well, what they're planning to do is make the expeditions that are part of the main story quests, so Amrine Temple, for example, those are going to have alternative solo options. So again, that's going to help solo players to get their way to endgame and then choose whether they want to continue partaking with the endgame activities or whether they'd rather just, do their own thing solo, and that does make it a lot better. One thing I would personally like to see going forward is more soloable endgame stuff, so making the elite zones something similar to that is able to be soloed, because pretty much you've got expeditions, you need a group, mutations, same thing, you need a group, elite zones, generally you need a group. Sometimes you can grab some of the chests, but especially for the weapon XP, or if you're just going for the kills when they do release those arena orb drop chances, you're going to need a group. The arenas themselves, you need a group. Outpost Rush you can queue solo for, but it's a group-based activity, it's PvP. Wars, invasions, really the only chance you have of getting into those is being in a company that owns territory. So again, you need a group. So something for the solo guys out there in endgame would be really, really cool. So maybe that's something we can see getting touched on in the future. Also with this, they've touched on the Blunderbuss, of course, that's the brand new weapon that we're going to be seeing. And they've talked a lot about one of the sides being basically an AoE/tanking side, really kind of supplementing a tank, or being much more AoE focused, jumping back, dropping a load of damage and then going in. The other side of the tree is really high DPS focus, singling out targets, taking them down quickly, that sort of thing, with a lot of utility and movement. So it is really, really cool. For those of you that haven't had hands on with it yet, certainly give it a try on the PTR if you have got the PTR downloaded. If you're not going to be jumping on the PTR, they are going to be having a double XP weekend, which I'll talk about once we get to that point of the video. But essentially, it's going to be double player XP, which for most players, including myself, was kind of like, okay, well, we're level 60, it doesn't really matter. But what they are doing with that is including double XP for weapon XP for the Blunderbuss only. So you'll be able to get on, level up the Blunderbuss, and obviously, experience some of the abilities there. You may as well try and get it leveled up at least halfway or something. Just the easy levels done with double XP, because you probably won't get a chance like this again. They did say it's probably going to be about a 3-day weekend period that it's on for, so you can try and get that, test it out, see if you like it, and even if you don't, at least you've kind of got that weapon leveled. If it becomes meta in the future, who knows, it's worth doing, so heads up for that one as well. Now, they also said that there's likely to see changes with the meta consistently and continuously, especially with the large-scale CC potential of the Void Gauntlet. That was something that they spent a lot of time talking about. They said it was not the intention when they created it, and it was supposed to be more of a support/debuff type weapon. Now, that being said, that does mean that we could see some big changes coming to the Void Gauntlet, or at least some changes in the way that the abilities work and function in terms of the actual abilities on the skill tree themselves, but also potentially the weapon perks. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they'll change it up, maybe they'll kind of leave it and put another weapon into that slot, who knows. But we have, of course, seen the Greatsword, which again I'll talk about once we get to the roadmap that is going to be coming towards the end of autumn. So we've got the Blunderbuss now, and then in a few months' time we're going to see the Greatsword as well. So some interesting stuff on the way. The next kind of big thing they've done here is talked about the in-combat or out-of-combat states that they've added to the game. Now, this was something that they said repeatedly they're going to keep adding to, so it's just the baseline that we've got right now, but basically when you're out of combat, you'll get a regeneration buff that will allow you to heal up to full pretty quickly, and this again will be really good for low-level players, but it'll also be good for high-level players. When you get tagged by that random mob, takes off a couple of hundred health, and it's just annoying sitting underneath the bar. You'll actually get a buff now back up to get your regen up, so that'll be nice. And again, that's something that they're going to keep developing, so if you have got feedback for that, ideas for that, I'm sure posting it on the forums is going to be the best course of action there. They talked again about more accessibility on the expedition keys coming soon. That's something that they really want to drill into, is really opening up the availability of these. And actually what they said is potentially in the future they want to have a completely keyless system where everybody will be able to go into the expeditions, and simply adding the orb will increase the rewards that you get rather than gaining you access. So everybody will be able to do it, but if you want the better rewards, you would have to put an orb in. I personally really like the idea of this system and think that that would be a lot more expansive for people to test out the game more, see whether they like these features, see whether it's something they want to invest time into, being that the mutators are obviously your best source of umbral shards. I think that's really important, so that would be a really, really cool addition and would certainly be something that I would be interested in seeing seen in the game, so we'll see if that comes into fruition in the future months. Now, also, we're going to see moving while in the inventory. This is a huge thing coming that's a QoL update with the Heart of Madness update that we're getting towards the end of the month here. We're actually going to be able to move around the world, check your drops, most importantly, I think, for most players, but also switch your gear if you're out of combat. Again, this is where the new in and out of combat systems come into play. If you're in combat, you can't change weapons, gear, consumables. If you're out of combat, you can. But you can obviously open that up whilst you're in combat, keep running around and, you know, press use on a consumable, I would assume. So it's going to add a little more dynamics to it. It's going to make it easier in wars for things like haste and cleanse potions when you've got a few of these things stacking up. But this is a really, really good QoL improvement, and I'm super happy that they have added that. Talking about QoL improvements then as well, they have added infinite ammo. So this replaces the tier 1 or the flint or just the regular bullets, etc. They will now be infinite on every ranged weapon that requires them, and any tier 1 ammo you currently have will be upgraded to tier 2 ammo. Now, you will still be able to put ammunition in, so for example, orichalcum arrows or bullets will still be the best. The infinite ammo will just be a 1x multiplier, and the subsequent increase in those levels of materials will increase the multiplier of damage. Obviously, the infinite ammo will just be a 1x, but then your best multiplier is going to be with that orichalcum, either ammo or arrows, so therefore they are going to sell for a lot. And of course, if you're looking to make some money, you're going to be wanting to make those, and if you're going to want to be someone who wants to get these, I would do it ahead of the update, because another weapon coming out that's going to require bullets, them being infinite ammo but then having the basically extra damage from those higher tier ones, they're always going to be in high demand. So as most servers will know, these are high priced already. Start making them if you can. You're going to make a profit from those for sure. Now, you will also see the ability to sign up from the map for invasions and the game modes tab for outpost rush, and also they did mention wars should be signable from the map as well. This is pretty cool. Again, really nice QoL feature, should help us out massively. 50% of the money you spend on a house will be given back to you when you sell that house. This is really good if you are moving around territories. Maybe your company gets a territory, you buy a house there to support your company, and then you lose that one, again a different one. You can sell that, get half your money back and swap it over to a different one. Or maybe you've spent all of your money, you thought you were going to get some of it back by selling some stuff that you've made, you didn't quite make it back, you want some money, maybe you've got a 20k house, you don't mind losing it, take 10k back, buy a 5 one, you still got 5k gold, then endless possibilities, but essentially you're just going to get half the money back from purchases, which again I think is a nice little addition. It means it's not punishing the player for moving around, getting to more advantageous locations for themselves and their gameplay, which I really like. Now, we're also seeing increasing rewards to invasions and wars. We're also seeing that there's going to be no durability loss for inventory items, including tools. Only the equipped items will take durability loss, which is huge for expeditions particularly, especially the mutators. If you're trying these hard ones out for the first few times, you might die a few times in this instance, and it's really, really good. Also, when you're flagged in the open world, it's going to be massive for that. So just the equipped items taking damage, it's going to be great, especially for those of us that carry around items trying to sell them. You know what I'm saying, this is going to be a lot better. Now, you can also move items in a storage to any other town storage, and this can be done for free. Your faction does not have to own the towns, you can just simply move items around, and they said that this is the first step in the direction to a global storage system. This is really good. It's going to be a lot easier to access. If a town gets upgrades or downgrades, you can simply move stuff around for free very easily, providing obviously that you have the space for it. And that's going to be much easier to manage our inventories and our items, which I really like. Again, a great QoL feature and something a lot of players will be excited about. Now, they also said that they're going to look into salvaging in the future will be more rewarding. This is an interesting thing. They're going to bring interesting rewards to it. So what that actually entails, they didn't go into specific details, but they said things like, especially the later on, the golden drops and the named items that you might get that are really good drops, but they might not be for your build, they might not be the perks that you want, etc. They should give you something more interesting for salvaging. So that's a system that they are looking into, because right now it's not too rewarding. I like that. I think that giving us something a little bit extra, particularly for those end game items that we're salvaging, would be a really cool idea and addition. So we'll see where that leads us as well. Now, also, they've said that they're going to be updating the faction control point bonuses, and potentially a territory standing reset will be upcoming as well. With this, that is when you control the forts, the bonuses that those forts give to the company and the faction that control it. Some of those are now negligible with the QoL updates that we've had, so those are going to get looked at, and we may see a full territory standing reset because things like XP are just not useful when you hit level 60, so hold the horses for there, but we may see that in the near future, so keep your eyes peeled. Now, the next thing that they talked massively about was their upcoming events. Obviously, currently right now, we have the Indigo Flame Twitch drop, which is going to be available until March the 21st. You need to watch 2 hours of any New World stream with drops enabled, and that will give you the purple glowing eyes. Very cool. Links in with the Tempest Heart Expedition and the Isabella kind of storyline there. It's a Twitch integration, so it's the purple eyes. I really like this. It's very cool. So definitely get your hands on that if you haven't already done so. The Heart of Madness will drop after this point, so it will be after March 21st. We didn't get an exact date, but typically they've been kind of the last week of the month, so again we can probably see them follow suit with that here again. Then they've talked about Vista Views, which is the brand new world paintings that can be placed in a house once found. There'll be 2 collectible ones per zone, and they're essentially just pictures of the landscape, but it's a pretty cool little collectible. It's going to be cool to see someone in their house where they've got all of the possible ones up, which I'm sure people will have. Maybe you can put them on the outside of your house, maybe you can create like a landscape wall or something. I really like collectible type things in games, and this is no different. That'll be something I want to try and get all of pretty sharpish because I do like collecting them. That is something, you know, as a personal note, I would love to see more of in New World, is collectible or cosmetic collectible type things, maybe achievement and rewards. Me and my group have always talked about capes being an option, so the capes that you get on the back of, you know, some of the outfits, some of the skins have capes on. They don't really give any attribute bonuses or anything like that, but just cool ones for maybe achievements, certain titles you earn give you a cape, maybe you could create a guild cape, that sort of thing would be amazing. So if anything like that was to be added to the game, I would be super excited for it. So obviously let me know your guys' thoughts on things like that, but I really like Vista Views, and you know, obviously capes is my own suggestion, but it's just things going in that direction is great. We're also going to see Rafflebones, which is essentially the loot goblin, is how they described him. And basically, if you defeat him before he runs away, he will give you good loot. And if you find him in a level 60 plus area and defeat him there, he will also give you 500 Umbral Shards for the kill. And he also gives named items. He's actually a pretty good mob to kill, but the chances are he's going to be pretty difficult to kill as a result of that. However, hunting him down for 500 Umbral Shards for 1 kill of a mob is going to be super worth it. So do watch your global chats. People will probably post when he's in there if they're trying to be kind, and kind of getting groups together to go around and kill him to get the most out of those rewards. Now, Yetis are going to be in Great Cleave, and that's just something that's been left behind from the Winter Convergence. Region transfers are in testing, and therefore they should be on the way relatively soon, so cross-region transfer is going to be a thing for those asking. Soon is all they've said. It's in testing though, which means it's, you know, sooner than some of the other features they've talked about within this update video, and so that is something that we can see in the near future, but we don't have an exact date on yet. The double XP weekend, like I said, will be player XP, so those that aren't level 60, those that want to return and get max level, or new players, you'll be able to level yourselves up pretty quickly there. But like I mentioned, double XP for the Blunderbuss, the weapon XP that is for the Blunderbuss, will be available for only that weapon, but it is a chance to get that maxed out pretty early on, and most of us, including myself, will definitely be taking advantage of that. Now, for reports, they talked about how reports and player communications work. For reports, there is a ban appeals and peer review system. The mods are actual people, so when you do appeal a report, it's going to be an actual person that deals with that, which a lot of players were asking about, particularly after the duping incident. Some people were falsely banned, some people were banned and thought it was false, some people were banned randomly, and so those appeals will be handled by people rather than bots, so you should be able to get those sorted out hopefully swiftly, so do use that system if it has affected you incorrectly. And of course, all reports aim to be looked at within 3 hours, they said as well, so they should start to see a good bit of movement on these reports going forward. Now, they said that there was a lot of constant bot bans going on. Interesting, we've reported lots of bots on our servers that have been there for a while. Some of them still there, most of them gone. I think majority of them have gone now, but they were there for quite a while, so maybe this is a newer thing that they've got going on. But it does seem to be working. Nonetheless, we're getting less bots by the day, which is always good. But they did say they've also banned tens of thousands of bots, so it seems like they've had the work cut out with them with gold sellers and, you know, resource gatherers and etc. And hopefully they are reducing in numbers drastically now, which is always a bonus thing. Now, another cool thing that they've been doing is the dev team have done some GMing in-game, which means they've gone in and they've taken a look at some bots. They've asked players where bots are in the world, gone to them, and directly manually banned these bots, which is a great thing to be happening. Hopefully that continues in the future, but I thought that was quite cool that we've seen them in-game as well. Mass reporting and taking part in it is for non-legitimate reasons, so just randomly mass reporting someone to get them out of a war, etc., is actually a breach of the code of conduct and therefore can result in a perma ban. That's something they stressed quite heavily in this video, so do be aware if suddenly someone is in chat saying this person's cheating, everyone report them, etc. Just check it out for yourself first. You don't want to get accidentally caught up in some of these mass banning reports because it could result in a permanent ban for yourself. So be aware of that. But obviously, if somebody is cheating, just mass report them, because if they're found to be cheating, obviously you will be clear. Now, as well as the bans and the reports section, they looked at the economy and server mergers, etc. They said that low population has had a negative impact with server transfers, so they may look at future server transfers for those or server mergers, but they are going to be introducing paid server transfers, and there are no more free token transfers planned at all. Rather, they are looking at future mergers. Now, for me, this is an interesting one. I don't know what I feel about paid server transfers, given that they've already given us a couple of free ones. I guess that was out of a gesture of goodwill for some of the servers that weren't surviving as well, or players not being as happy. We have had a couple of choices to change there now, but it does kind of mean that your choices are permanent now, and they are going to be paid for, so I guess that's one way for them to make a bit of money if people do want to transfer, especially if it's going to be a full company. However, this does create a kind of dichotomy between the players who can afford to transfer and those that don't want to spend money on it. Personally, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like not many players are going to use it, which is probably the idea. They kind of want people to stay where they are. But they did say that they're going to be looking more carefully then at future mergers and mergers of when populations get low, getting more players together quicker, which obviously is fine if they do keep up with that. Again, keeping players engaged. If they're going to make the server transfers paid, make sure that no server populations drop low and kind of player count is low. Get everyone in together, that could be really good. With that as well, they said that the Azoth system ended up being a constraint rather than something cool, which they wanted it to be. So adapting to that, they have reduced the necessity of it, and now it's more just for crafting, rather than, obviously there is a little bit, but it is a negligible amount for travelling around. It is generally just the 45, 60, whatever you put in to craft. Everything else is kind of neither here nor there with. They are going forward, not looking at further server locks. But once a world reaches full capacity, it does automatically lock. So if any worlds do reach full capacity with new character creations and such, they will be automatically locked. So do be aware if you are transferring as a company, check that the server isn't nearly full already, otherwise you could get locked out. Cross-server activities is something that are being worked on for expeditions, OPR, and the casual versions of wars and invasions when they are released. This is absolutely huge and is something that I cannot wait to see added. For me, I would question whether it's regional or worldwide. They probably haven't fully decided this yet because it is still in the works, and it's something they said they're going to keep working on until they get it right. I would personally recommend regional just because I think the connection is going to be slightly better with that. However, worldwide, if they can find some sort of optimized additional server to place people into that gives everybody the best connection, that would be awesome because the queue times would be super low from that. So that would be really, really cool. I think we can expect to see this after the group finding system or alongside it at the earliest, because obviously we'll need that system in place for this to work. But cross-server is really, really good, and it would combat a lot of the issues, because I think some players wouldn't mind being on a low-pop server if they were able to do the instanced content much more easily and much more accessibly. So that sounds really, really cool, and I am very excited to get hands-on with that. This isn't included in the roadmap because they said they haven't got a specific time they want to kind of knuckle down on to get it done. They want to keep working on it until it's correct, so that actually when it is released, it works accurately and correctly. So that's good. We should be seeing it soon, hopefully, is all we get, of course. That's kind of the way it goes with New World, but that's that. There will be lots of player feedback changes on the way, and they will be implemented in the future. So they've said to keep posting about what we would like to see and what we'd like to change, etc. So obviously they are listening to that feedback. We can see that from a lot of the updates they are doing. So keep doing that. Keep suggesting things. Keep talking about changes you'd like to see on the forums, on Reddit. Particularly the official forums, this seems to be the best place. They are going to keep bringing out those updates based on that feedback. Now, they also talked about PvP, particularly the spring season of PvP, and the fact that we are now going to be getting the 3v3 arenas. This could be this month, at the end of March. It could be next month. It was included with the section that was talked about with March, so like the PvP arenas and the reward track were talked about alongside the Blunderbuss and the Tempest Heart Expedition. However, it doesn't explicitly say that, it just says spring, so I don't know if we're going to be seeing it this month or next month, but I'll keep you guys updated as soon as I know more on that. Essentially, we're going to be getting it soon though, and this is, like I said, there are 3v3 arenas that are going to come with a PvP reward track. Now, the reward track is going to be something where players earn PvP-specific XP and currencies from doing any form of PvP, which then unlocks quote-unquote prestigious rewards. What these are going to be, whether they're going to be exclusive titles, exclusive cosmetics, whether they're going to be a PvP level that gives you a certain something in game. I really don't know what these are going to be, but it does seem like they have something cool planned. They did also say that PvP and PvE will start to complement each other much more and will continue to do so. So maybe as you level up through the PvP system, we will start to see some Umbral Shard rewards on there, which will allow PvP players to get up to that 625 gear score more accurately and more easily, which would be really cool as well. And then, of course, we also talked about the global cooldowns, which are getting added with the March patch. These are going to be 5 AM daily for your server time, that is. So whatever server time is, 5 AM daily. And Tuesday at 5 AM for any weeklies. Now, this will include crafting, elite chests, and the bonuses that you earn from the faction missions, which, of course, is 10x gold for the first 3 per day and will be 5x faction tokens for the first 3 per day after the March update. Now, finally here, of course, we talked about the roadmap. I made a full video on this yesterday, so if you haven't seen that, do go back and watch it. It's really, really cool. I went over everything that they've included, and there's some amazing stuff. As you guys will be able to see from the picture that's on screen now, we've got some really, really cool stuff upcoming. Lots to talk about there, which I did yesterday, like I said. But essentially, that is what they are committed to. This is the bare minimum we can expect. It says it can change, but this is generally what they are confident they're going to bring us. They did say that there would be other or more things added to this as well, but this is almost like the skeleton outline of this is what we're going to expect to see. You can expect to see bug fixes, balances, changes, updates, QoL updates, any community driven feedback as a separate thing alongside this, and also maybe additional implementations depending on how well they're getting on with what is planned on there. I personally think they're quite far ahead with this development, and they seem to be quite confident, which is why they've released that, but we'll see going forward what else we can see. Now, for today's video, that is pretty much it. That is the whole dev video kind of summarized and talked about. Lots of exciting stuff and lots of really cool things in the works potentially for the next few months, as well as what we're immediately getting at the end of March. Do let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments section down below. There's lots of cool things I'm really excited about, but do let me know what you're most excited about. If there's anything that you would like to see changed or updated ASAP for you, what's the most pressing issues? But other than that, guys, that is going to be it for today. So again, as always, thank you for your time, thank you for watching, and I will catch you again very, very shortly on a brand new upload. Take care, guys, and peace.